it's the next level.
What is it? Don't get too close.
Yeah, no shit. Looks like some sort of temporal anomaly. Either that or a miniature black hole, one of the two. It's a pretty big difference there, Paul Bunyan. Out of the way! What are you...
What is that gonna do? I don't know. You have a better idea?
Whoa. Everyone get behind me. Yeah, get behind us.
I'm out for running. Come on.
Does anyone else see little number 5, or is that just me? Shit.
What's the date? The exact date?
24th
Of what?
March.
Good.
Hey, panelers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And on this episode, we are going to review and discuss Season 1 of The Umbrella Academy. You know, basically initial thoughts of the whole season, and then we're going to go into Season 2, Episode 1. We will be doing Season 2, one episode a week from now on. Maybe change it up. We're not sure yet, but we will all notify you through Facebook or before with the next episode if we're going to do 2 episodes at a time. It's just depending on how things go. So please, if you do send feedback, treat it like maybe it's an episodic show. That is how Steve and I are pretty much watching at this point. We're trying to do it one episode at a time, like one per week, like if it was actually on TV. But what were your thoughts on Season 1, Steve?
Oh, I love season. You know, I initially watched it when our friends on Strange Indeed covered it a couple years ago, or whenever it was, and I really enjoyed it. And you know, the main thing for me is that I didn't pick up on that Vanya had powers early on. Like this watch through, I kind of saw where there are little things that should have like clued me in that there was something more going on with her. But for some reason, I remember that initial watch, it caught me completely off guard when the first time when we see kind of power emanate off her when she's doing that solo or doing that first chair recital kind of thing.
Yeah, well, this was my first watch of the show, and I heard about the comic way back when, but I never grew any interest in it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was at a time when I wasn't really looking for something like that. But from what I heard of it, it was really good. It just gave me the vibes of the X-Men at times because the way the kids are brought together, but in this case they're adopted and stuff. But with how Hargreaves was someone who was taking advantage of these kids, it seemed to me, you know, that's when he brought these children together. In the beginning I was a little bit skeptical about Vanya not having powers, and once Leonard Peabody or Harold Jenkins came into play, and I saw how he was like, oh, wait, there's something going on here. She has to have something's missing. Mm-hmm. As soon as that character was played in, I'm like, yeah, that's a catalyst for something, and there's got to be some sort of hidden agenda. And then basically, you know, he'll create the time bomb, which is Vanya. But I kind of got this around episode 4, I believe.
Yeah, I can see that. Like I said, on this rewatch, I suddenly realized that, I should have picked up on the fact that there was something more going on with her than kind of meets the eye kind of thing, because they just kept stressing how ordinary she was, and that was the one thing that caught me this watch, that I was like, okay, I really should have figured that out early on, because they just kept stressing, oh, you're ordinary, and I'm like, there's got this watch. I was like, okay, now I see. I should have picked up on that.
Yeah, I actually enjoyed the show. It took me about 2 episodes in to really get really engrossed into it. The first episode was very long, in my opinion. I don't know. It wasn't long time-wise. It just felt like a long time to get to somewhere. And then by third or fourth one, I was like, all right, I'm into this. This looks really cool.
Yeah. Very cool.
So we should get on to our top 5s.
Absolutely.
Can we go home now?
So you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. It's really runs throughout the whole season. It's just the different songs and the kind of different dancing scenes that they have. I really liked, and I'll highlight the 2 biggest ones for me, which are probably most people's, is that first episode, or I guess it's first or second episode. I guess, yeah, where with Tiffany's, I think we're alone now, and we get that wide shot of the whole house. It's almost like a comic book panel, and you can see all of them dancing separately in their rooms, and then of course that dancing in the moonlight scene with Luther and Allison is great. The ending, that fight scene in the diner with the Istanbul song going, just all of them. I mean, I could go on and on for this. And I didn't realize it until this watch through, and I had to check the IMDb, that when Mary J. Blige, when she blows up the diner, that's her cover of Rod Stewart's Stay With Me. So I thought that was kind of a cool little touch for them to put that in.
Yeah, the fact that Mary J. Blige is in there, and then they actually had
yeah, exactly.
Stay With Me in it during her scene.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that too. Once I realized, like, that's Mary J. Blige. It took me a little while to figure it out. I had to look just like you did as I was watching. I was like, she looks familiar. But my number 5 would be, like you, the music and the feel within the show, how they captivate you and utilize that within the scenes. They all worked. The Queen song really got me with, Don't Stop Me Now, and kind of reminiscent to with Shaun of the Dead and how they used that in the film too. But, definitely music is a big thing within the show for particular scenes, moods, and basically characters that are going through things, like kind of a feeling. So, keep in mind, listeners, just pay attention to music as it's going too, because you'll get a good feel of what the character's going through. I think it's a representation of mood. So
Exactly, yeah. My number 4 was just Klaus. I had totally forgotten about his character arc and how he goes from kind of being this happy-go-lucky, kind of just making fun of everything and being almost the comedic, Fallout guy, to this arc when he meets Dave and how he comes back from war with his PTSD. So I really enjoyed watching that because I had totally forgotten about it. It was that's just kind of a short one, but that really stood out to me, was how the actor plays that character and how we see that kind of switch from early on in the season to late in the season.
Oh, also including Ben, who's always there that nobody else sees because he's dead.
Yeah. Well,
he's always seeing him there, and he's always there all the time.
Yeah, it's really cool that's one of those things that I found it interesting that they kept pointing out the fact that he couldn't manifest anybody else until he was sober, but he was able to always manifest Ben. And I guess that's just because of the relationship being siblings and all. But still, that was really cool. There was I'll mention this briefly because we're talking about it. There was somebody put in the IMDb goofs that when we see Ben's shadow, there's an episode where I think it was the day that wasn't, when they're walking out of the day that was, when they're walking out of the club, that you can see Ben's shadow, and they said that was a goof because he's a ghost. He shouldn't cast a shadow. And I kind of thought, well, no, maybe that was, pun intended here, foreshadowing of the fact that that Klaus can actually manifest him in physical form, So then maybe he does cast a shadow sometimes when Klaus is manifesting him. So just a thought.
That's cool. Yeah, but that's a cool thought.
Yeah.
My number 4 would be the dynamic of the group of the kids that were brought up by Hargreave. They're all messed up. And I saw pretty much a similarity between, it was kind of like a mashup of like Haunting of Hill House, X-Men, and some other show that I was thinking of, that they're all kind of messed up. It's like with Haunting of Hill House, you had one person that has powers, but in this one, they all have powers, but they're going through these hardships, personal experiences, and growth.
Right.
But except for Vanya, who was pretty much drugged and suppressed throughout her life, so that was basically Hargreave suppressing everything. Hargreave knew that that he had to suppress her power like Professor X to a Dark Phoenix,
Yeah.
And obviously we get that end result at the very end of like the anger, the chaos, and how strong she is as a meta or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point to bring out. Just the whole dysfunction. There was that line from the handler when she's asking Hazel and Cha-Cha for why they couldn't fulfill their mission, and they're like, well, that family had us, and she's like, you had a dysfunctional bunch of siblings and you couldn't take care of them. I thought that was great. Yeah. My number 3 is it's kind of a long one, but I want to discuss it because it really bugged me, and I went back and watched these episodes over again a couple of times because it just bugged me. There was a small continuity error, I think, but maybe it's not a continuity error. I don't know. But maybe, I don't know if you saw it or not, but in episode 6 and 7, which is The Day That Wasn't and The Day That Was, which, by the way, I love the 2 episodes a lot. They're really great because we get to see, the same day kind of from different perspectives, and we get to see some different things. But what bugged me, and I'm not sure if it's a continuity error or not, is that in The Day That Wasn't, we see at 8:15 a.m., Luther is talking to the family or to the other siblings that are there, and he's talking about what he learned from number 5 and the fact that number 5 is gone. And there's like a ding in the background, which we do hear in the next episode as well when 5 arrives. But he has that whole conversation with them before Vanya and Leonard come to the house. In the next episode, in The Day That Wasn't, or The Day That Was, number 5 appears at 8:15 a.m. again, is what the title card says, 8:15 a.m. again, which means Vanya would have interacted with him, but we don't get that scene. We don't. So I don't know if they're trying to make it look like because 5 changed the day that Vanya and Leonard came earlier or something, because we get that same scene where they're walking outside in the rain, and it just bugged me a little bit, because you would think that, and I guess it just goes to what the time travel aspect of the show of what 5 talked about, the butterfly effect, is that you would think that everybody's day would proceed exactly the same except for those 4 or 5 siblings, because the only change was that they interacted with 5 instead. And it just kind of bugged me a little bit when I went back and watched it, because it just didn't make sense that we lose a lot of kind of character defining moments from The Day That Wasn't, because we get Vanya finding the ledger, the little diary of Hargreaves in that episode, but then that scene is mirrored in episode 9 when she finds the book and then kills Leonard. So it just it bugged me a little bit, and I don't know if it was necessarily a continuity error or not, but if they had 5 appear a little bit later, like at 9 a.m. or something, instead of the same time as...
It was a little bit, yeah, I did get that feel as a first view, that something seemed a little off, but I don't know, it seemed like for like the second time when he comes in, he just blasts in and they all look at him, and it was kind of abrupt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think that kind of delayed the conversation at a certain point, maybe. But
yeah,
that could be me.
The only thing I can figure is that maybe Vanya and Leonard never entered the room because 5 appeared. Maybe they saw 5 appear out of the air, and so they never actually entered the room. He still steals Hargreaves' action figure or statue, whatever, from the little case that he steals it from, which we never see that thing again. I thought that was they're gonna make it.
It was
bigger.
under the bed.
Oh, was it under the bed? Okay, where the ledger book was, right? And so
Yes.
because that whole thing changed, again, we don't know what happened to it in The Day That Was. So, okay. But anyway, it was a little thing, and it bugged me enough that it made me go back and rewatch those beginning scenes again, and because I wanted to see where she finds the book, which is we see her finding the book right at the very end of episode 6 when 5 appears and the day backs up. So I don't know. It just was a little. I'm saying it's a little thing, but we're spending a lot of time on it. So
I know.
But yeah, it just bugged me a little bit.
So that'll bring me to my number 2, right?
You're number 3, I thought.
Oh, yeah, my number 3.
Yeah.
Well, the kids come together at the end to help one another as well as helping Vanya herself because they're family. But that ending was really good. Little out there. They didn't stop the apocalypse. It just like it was inevitable.
Well, yeah,
But
and almost in a way, you could say they almost ended up they kind of caused it, really.
oh yeah. Yeah.
In certain and because we don't know what would have happened if Vanya had just played the concert. Would she have just killed the people
In the concert alone.
In the concert, yeah. Or if they hadn't, if they had done what Allison wanted when Allison said no, let her go. If they hadn't kept her locked up in that cell, and
Things would have been way different, I think.
right, exactly. If Allison hadn't shot the gun next to her head, she wouldn't have been distracted, and her whatever power wouldn't have shot up and to the moon. It would have shot out. So it
Correct.
still might have destroyed like the city or the building or something. We don't know if it would have destroyed the whole world or not, but we know that because her aim changed, it went through the roof and hit the moon, and then we have the apocalypse. So it is kind of interesting. It's kind of funny. I hate to joke about it like that, but it is kind of funny that they ended up causing the very thing they were trying to stop.
Yeah,
Which they talk about in episode 1 of season 2. So
Yeah, they do. And it's so wild, though, for the fact that it does leave off and goes right, if you think about it, goes into, but it left it kind of ominous. I guess they weren't sure if they were going to do a season 2.
it is
And-
it is weird that they ended it that way, and except like I don't know how the comic book ended. I think the comic book ends with the apocalypse happening as well. So maybe they thought, well, we're just going to end it the same way the comic book ended, whether we get a season 2 or not.
Yeah, and they are able to make it work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's so funny how it's like, well, I'm pretty sure everybody who's listening now has watched episode 1 of season 2. The fact that there is another apocalypse, my question is, are they going to go back to the original and try to fix that so they try to clean up everything? I know it's a butterfly effect, but I have a funny feeling if they go to another season and yet again there's another apocalypse, they're going to have to go back to the first one, fix that issue, and then change that. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, it's interesting. We'll see, because we do know, and again, this is a spoiler-full. We probably should announce this at the beginning of the episode. This is a spoiler-full podcast for it, but we do know that it has been announced that season 3 has been greenlit. I don't know if it's been written or they have any plans for what they're going to do with it, but we do know that a season 3 has been greenlit at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually do stop this apocalypse, or like you said, if this ends up being another apocalypse that they can't stop, and they have to go back in time again, or they go forward in time, or what they're going to do at the end of the season. We don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm excited for this whole season. So
Yeah, so far it looks really good.
yeah. So my number 2 was just kind of the sad story of Allison and how her family kind of broke up. But at the same time, it sounds like from her, as she's driving the car and she's remembering it, we see her use her rumor power on her daughter to make her go to sleep, and her husband's standing in the doorway, and it's almost like she turns around and she says, no, and she tries to explain something, but then as she's remembering, I think she realizes, and this is probably what her husband realized and why they broke up or why they got divorced, because the husband realizes, wait a minute, I don't know what has been rumored and what hasn't. And we hear all these times when she used her power on her daughter, when she used her power, we hear her different lines for her career. And then the very last line we hear is, I heard a rumor that you love me. And I wonder if that was her speaking to her husband. And so now he can't even trust what's true and what's not. And it just was very tragic and very kind of sad the way it happened.
Yeah, it sounded to me like she was just using her power to manipulate throughout her life.
Absolutely.
And she just utilized it to get what she wanted, which changes, I think, in season 2. So,
well, yeah, obviously we're gonna find out. We'll talk about season 2 episode when we get to it. But it is interesting that we know that she eventually gets her voice back, because we see her using it there in the opening scene. But then when we see what happened to her, we also see that she doesn't have a voice. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see how that relationship with that man became, and whether that child is a child of hers or whether that was a child of his, or I guess we'll find out in the next few episodes or throughout the season.
Yeah, plus with that scene with Vanya and her unleashing her power on it and cutting her throat. Oh, that was so intense.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and it was so, again, it was one of those sad moments when you see, and then later on when Vanya is feeling repentant about it, and she's looking at the bow and she sees the blood on her bow and she realizes what she did, and then her relief when she finds out that Allison is alive. And I still wondered as I watched that scene with Vanya in the cell, I wonder if she could see what Allison was writing. And I hope she could, because I hope
Same
she
here.
I
Yeah,
hope she
yeah.
knew that Allison wanted to let her out, that it was Luther. But it might not have been the way the actors were kind of standing. She might not have been able to see what Allison was writing, and so she may not realize that Allison and the rest of the siblings wanted Luther to let her go, but Luther was the one who said, no, I'm going to keep her locked up. And Luther was the one who kind of put the foot down. So
Yeah, he put the foot down. He was the one he was like the number one. So obviously he was trying to take control and take charge of the family. The one thing too about that cell scene is like she could not hear them and they could not hear her.
Right.
So that was the hardest, but it would have been great if we actually got confirmation that, she was able to read whatever Allison was writing, because obviously Allison couldn't speak.
Yeah, and we'll find out. We may or may not find out this season. Who knows?
My number 2 would be each character from the group is pretty much that family's messed up. They all know that themselves to some degree, except for number 5, who thinks he knows better because, he's a 58-year-old man stuck in a 13-year-old's body. And it's just so funny how I guess he could actually change that if he really wanted to push it that way. But I guess he's grown comfortable to be in that 13-year-old body of himself.
Yeah, it was a little, that part is a little bit confusing in that we don't really know, kind of, he says something about when he shows up and he's in the body of a 13-year-old and they say something to him about it, he goes, well, I messed up the calculations. And so there's some sort of formula to even when he uses his own powers to time travel. And so, yeah, it is interesting if we ever find out kind of the explanation of that, or if it's just going to be one of those kind of hand wavy things that they just want that they want the plot, and I'm sure it's probably the same in the comic books. They want the character to derive from the fact that he's the 58-year-old man in a 13-year-old's 14-year-old body, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and we also know that the act. What's kind of cool about this particular show is I believe the actor is an adult, and so he's probably not going to change much, and so we won't run into that story problem of him growing up and them having to explain how
why he's
doing, because I think the actor is actually like 20 or something like that, I think.
Oh wow.
I could be wrong, but I think I looked that up, and I'm pretty sure he's like an adult. So he just looks like a little kid, or they especially the way they dress him and obviously do his makeup and stuff, he's going to look much younger than he actually is.
That's wild.
So where are we at? Are we at my number 1?
Yeah,
I think
number 1.
It just the season finale in general, just everything that happened, and we've kind of already talked a little bit about it, but just the all the stuff that goes on, and that moment when you don't know whether Allison is going to shoot Vanya in the head, or you don't know what she's actually going to do, and she ends up firing next to her head and just distracting her enough instead of killing her. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I loved that we got to see Klaus and what he did with Ben, and we still don't really fully understand Ben's powers. He has somehow he has tentacles coming out of his body. And I think I read, or one of the other podcasts I was listening to talked about the fact that what he's actually doing is he's opening up a portal like to another dimension, and he's letting out some kind of creature or something to attack for him. But that opens up a whole nother can if that's what's going on. But we get to see him, and we get to see what happened to those bank robbers. and he tears a guy in half. I mean, he rips him.
Yeah, it was all done animated too, I believe.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see all of them fighting together, and even Five when he shows up and he's trying to help them out.
Yeah, it seems like it was showing them in their prime when they were the Umbrella Academy.
Exactly.
Going out there in their, academy suits and stuff and stopping crime and all that stuff. So my number one would be my number one is just a mishmash of things that I had questions for that I hope we'll get answers to.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we got a little bit more about Pogo, how he was created, and a backstory about how he came into Hargreaves' life and how Hargreaves helped him and how he helped the family and how else he was there. And plus that there's Ben. How did he die? And what was, how is he so attached to Klaus? And where that, is the relationship? I'm hoping that in the coming season that we actually see a little bit more about that. You get more information because they, even though Pogo is there and he was gone after the first season, he was very much a part of that family, just like the mother, the robot.
Mm-hmm.
She was there. Plus, that was also something that I got a good chuckle about. Is like Vanya went through 3 or 4 nannies,
at least, and we don't know how many she killed, how many were just injured.
Yeah.
There's actually there had to be at least a couple that were killed by her. So yeah,
and that's what it's like. Hargreaves had to clean up those bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I also noticed that number one story about his transformation was different from the comic.
Yeah,
because in the comic he had his head grafted onto a gorilla's body, but in the show he was injected with a serum with DNA and all that that gave him gorilla features.
Yeah,
from the neck down.
Yeah. And that's an interesting. Again, that's one of those things that when they bring Allison in and Pogo says that she needs a blood transfusion or she needs blood, and he tries to offer his, and Pogo says, "No, you can't give her your blood.
Yeah, your blood is more like mine than anybody."
Yeah, exactly. So I don't remember if they showed us who ended up doing the blood transfusion with her or not, but it is kind of interesting that
Klaus's was tainted,
mm-hmm.
polluted according to Pogo. I forget who it was.
Yeah,
it might have been. Was it Diego? I don't know.
It sticks in my mind that it was Diego, but I don't recall paying attention to that scene close enough when it happened.
Yeah.
So.
So we had a few notes here.
Yeah, I think we've got some similar notes. So why don't you go with yours? Because I think yours and your first one and mine are very similar.
Well, my first one would be the dark humor of the show,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty much what drew me to it once I started getting into it. I wish I listened to Strange Indeed when they initially covered it and started watching way back when. But I was skeptical about it then, and I'm glad that you suggested it,
Yeah, I'm glad, and it's besides the fact that it's really the only new content we have at the moment. But I'm with you right there with the dark humor, the kind of subtle kind of humor stuff. I love that closing. It's in the episode 9 or episode 10. I can't remember when they're driving to go to Leonard's cabin, and Luther says, ask something about, can you go faster or something like that. And Five says, ask me again and I'll burn you with a cigarette lighter. I just thought that was one of the, I know we're not into quotes yet, but I loved it. And it made me chuckle every time as I watched it. Just all the subtle humor, like when you were talking about the different nannies, when she throws Grace across the room, the robot, she gets up and she walks toward her, and I don't think I realized it the first time I watched it a year or so ago, but her head was completely turned around and she's walking backwards basically. And then she turns her own head around so that she can, to continue the meal. And then Vanya starts to eat her oatmeal because she realizes, oh, this is a nanny that I can't. Apparently I can't
there was
kill.
futility at that point, and she had to actually eat her oatmeal or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I thought, and just all throughout, there's all these just little moments of humor stuff that we don't like. The whole thing of when they're in the bowling alley and the mother comes over and thinks that Five is Klaus and Diego's son, and they're like, "Do you want your son to come be at my 15-year-old's birthday party, and Klaus is like, I'd rather rip out your throat or something like that. I can't. Or number 5 is like, I can't remember exactly what he said to her, but he sends her packing. Just all of that, just the little humorous touches, and I hope we get that throughout season 2 as well.
Yeah, same here. I'm just glad that the mother or the robot gave them names, because the numbers really throw me off.
Yeah,
times.
yeah, yeah,
1 in 3 are trying to have a relationship, and then
yeah, exactly.
the change within time, I really enjoyed that. The alternate timelines and what may have been and what could have been.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like the twist of things. They're really gonna. This is more of like a time traveling kind of show.
Yeah, there definitely is some time travel stuff there. The scene where we see where Hargreaves makes Allison use her power on Vanya. She said they were 4 years old when that happened, and it just I teared up a little bit watching that scene because it was just so sad, and it made me wonder. I guess either Allison had forgotten because it was so many years, or maybe the other kids just didn't even realize that Vanya, and I guess this is evidence because we see that later when they find out that Vanya has powers, none of them can believe it. And, you would think Allison would be the one, well, why, Dad, are you telling me to tell her she's ordinary?
Yeah.
And they're really, and I guess being at 4 years old, she just didn't question it. She just used her power to tell Vanya she was ordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. But it was kind of sad.
Yeah, it was sad. That was a hard scene to watch. But then, you come to that realization, okay, this is how they were able to suppress it. But if in her mind, deep down, she knew, like, she thought she was normal because of the rumor, is that you're normal. Mm-hmm. But the thing is were the medication meant to suppress her powers?
Well, yeah, and I think that was the whole thing. That's what I think. Even Hargreaves realized that the rumor power might not be enough if Vanya, and this is what we find out later when Leonard starts to push her, mm-hmm. that Hargreaves realized that just the rumor wasn't going to be enough to suppress her. He needed to keep her, and I'm sure what the kind of medication she was on was like antidepressants or something like that, so that it kept her to where her emotions are even, and she never really had any emotion until she stopped taking those meds. So
yeah,
my final one is just that fight scene between Hazel and Cha-Cha. I thought was really great, and the whole time when Agnes is on the chair over the hot tub, and it was just such a great, because we'd seen those two fight other people, we'd seen
but not each other.
But yeah, seeing them fight each other, I thought was great. It was well choreographed. I think the stuntmen did a really good job, and I think they did really well to find stuntmen that were close to the characters, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I have one quote. I don't know. Do you have any? Or
I didn't have any quotes. I didn't really. I think I already used my one, the burning with a cigarette lighter thing.
Well, yeah, I only have one, and that would be Klaus saying, "There's nothing like a little strangling to get the blood flowing," and that was to Diego as he was getting him tied up to be sober, all because Diego is pissed at him.
I thought that was funny too when Cha-Cha and Hazel are tying him up, and you see his kind of reaction, and Hazel, Cha-Cha looks down and she sees him, getting aroused by the strangling and the torture, and she's like, "Ew,"
Exactly.
That was great. Yeah, there was a lot of great lines. I just I failed to write any of them down.
Well, we have the next episode too.
Exactly.
Episode 1 of season 2, which we're gonna go into. So next up is the Umbrella Academy Season 2, Episode 1, right back where we started, and it's pretty much exactly what it is. The synopsis is, after dropping his siblings into an alley in Dallas in different years, 5 scrambles to track them all down and stop a new doomsday threat, which, basically, here, I'm going to throw you into the same thing again.
Yeah. I thought it was great. And we do want to take a moment here just in case I don't know why you would be listening to us if you haven't already watched episode 1. You've probably binged watched the entire season at this point, but just a warning to you, if you have not watched episode 1 of season 2 of the Umbrella Academy yet, stop now, go watch it and come back to it.
Yeah.
I started last time. Do you want to go? I noticed I swapped our colors on the agenda, didn't I?
It's okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
So onto our top fives, and I'll go first
Sure.
this time.
Can we go home now?
My number 5 would be Vanya finds herself with a family that takes her in as a nanny, and then she gets to find herself into some respect, finds a family, people that she can connect with, and, it's pretty cool for the fact that, she had a messed up life with her own family.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
at this time, she has amnesia and she doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's really pretty cool, and I think I had it in my notes about this that I'm a little skeptical of the whole amnesia thing. I think that's in my notes.
You think she's
'cause
playing it off?
I mean, part of me thinks it's too easy for her to have amnesia, and with everything her character went through there at the end of the season of that arc of having a repentant thought and then getting angry again because they locked her up.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see her work through that. I don't want to see her. I don't want to give her a pass on what she, what she was about to do. And but we'll see. We'll see if the amnesia is real, and then how they deal with that throughout the season. So
Yeah.
my number 5 was just the kind of, there's some homages to other sci-fi shows and time travel kind of stories. It's not as clear the second time I watched this or third time I watched the episode through, but when Vanya gets hit by the car, it's very similar to Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future getting hit with the car. And then when Hazel pops in to help number 5, and they reverse the line, but it's very similar to the one from the Terminator franchise. He says, "If you want to live, come with me." So they kind of reverse it in the Terminator franchise. It's "come with me if you want to live."
If you want to live,
right?
Yeah.
But there's definitely some homages there when 5 is in the apartment with the guy Elliot. He says the truth is out there, which is an X-Files reference. So I really loved all these subtle little sci-fi kind of references that they gave us.
Yeah, I noticed that too. And it was funny too. It was on my first watch. I'm like, that looks familiar. It's like, okay, yeah. But I think they're just clued into that whole thing of pop culture, and they're trying to hit those points when they do the show.
Yeah. Very cool. So what was
my
your
number 4?
Your number 5 for this one. Or no, did you started first? I'm sorry. Yeah. You're number 4. Yes.
All right. My number 4 would be Luther making himself useful within the time as a boxer for a thug. Pretty much somebody who was it? Wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald, was it?
I think it's supposed to be Jack Ruby.
It was Jack Ruby who
kills Lee Harvey Oswald in the original.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's who we're meant to. I think they've said Ruby. I think there was a couple of characters that identified him as Ruby. So I think that's what we're meant to think, is that he's Jack Ruby from that. He
is.
area.
Yeah, as I recall, because 5 actually brings it up. Because 5 points it out to Luther when he talks to him in the club. And I just like the idea, the fact that he's just trying to survive within the world that he was dropped in. Now, mind you, each of them were dropped literally at different times within years apart. Like what?
I've got this in my number 4. I've got all the specific.
Okay, if you want to go ahead with that, that'll be great.
Sure. Yeah, no, and I totally agree with you. And I had this later, I think I sent this as a voicemail actually to somebody, that I'm interested to see that story, that backstory with Luther of how he ended up being Jack Ruby's kind of bodyguard / boxer. And that's a callback to season 1, because when he went to Diego's gym, the guy in the ring is like, "Hey,
you should get in the ring.
Yeah, if you ever want to box, come see me." So, okay, so here's the different dates that they all arrived. Klaus and Ben show up on or around February 12th, 1960. We don't get that on screen. We just get 1960 on screen for them, but then they find the magazine that's dated February 12th. So sometime around February 12th, 1960 is when Klaus and Ben get there. Allison, we just get 1961, and she goes into that diner with the whites only sign, and it just that's kind of a sad reminder that we have not gone very far in the last 40 years as we think we have. Luther, they just tell us 1962, and I loved him crying out for Allison there in the alleyway. And then the first time we actually get an on-screen date is with Diego, who shows up on September 1st, 1963, and I absolutely love that he's the only one that does the hero landing. Like he totally knew and expected what was about to happen, and that's completely what his power is, is that he's got the agility and stuff. So that was really cool. Vanya is October 12th, 1963, and she's still dressed in that white suit that, she was in a black suit with a black tie, but then I guess her powers or something changed the suit to white as she was playing the music. And then 5 is November 25th, 1963, which I think is interesting because it's 3 days after the Kennedy assassination. So I wonder if him going back to 10 days earlier than November 25th, if we're going to see, kind of how the events get to that point. But just a bit of trivia. I love that he's still in his bowling shoes. And and again, a bit of trivia about the November 22nd, 1963, when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. It's also the same day that C.S. Lewis died, who was a prolific Christian author at the time and wrote the Chronicles of Narnia, for those of you that may not know. And then also November 22nd, 1963 is the day that Aldous Huxley, the author of Brave New World, died. So just kind of an interesting, it's an interesting date in history.
Oh, definitely. Very iconic too, if you think about it.
Right. Well, and this, we get the callback. There's a little bit of a callback also to season 1 again, because remember, it was the day that Kennedy was assassinated, that number 5 time traveled forward to 2019. So he was there. We don't know if he was there to prevent the assassination, if he was there because he ends up, he was the guy on the grassy knoll is what we find out, but he never actually fires his gun. So we don't know exactly what his mission was. I don't think they ever really tell us, or in season 1 at least, they didn't tell us exactly what his mission was there in 1963. So it'd be interesting to see also if they run into...
He encounters himself, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. If he encounters the older version of himself, that would be interesting to see. So you're number 3, I think.
That would be number 5, dealing with everything and trying to get the family together. He still wants to fix things. Apparently, there's a new order looking for him and the family, and then unfortunately, Hazel lost his wife to cancer. That was one that was hard to deal with.
They did get 20 years together though, which is really nice. He makes that, he says that to 5.
Yeah.
He says that Agnes died of cancer, but we did have 20 years together. We don't know how long before this event that she's died. So we don't know how long he's been waiting to come there to save 5, but he does make that mention. He says, I'm keeping a promise to Agnes. So I wonder, that's a story. I wonder if we're going to get that story of them, or if we're just going to be left kind of hanging there of what that was all about.
Yeah, plus the fact that Hazel, dies by trying to save number 5, too.
Yeah, exactly.
During that whole mess. And that whole intro too in the very beginning of the show.
Yeah,
like that. It's like Nazis or
it's the Soviets. It's Russians.
Soviets. Yeah, in Dallas at that time, I think.
Yeah.
And the way they were all fighting together, the slow motion intro, them using their powers. You see Vanya actually working alongside them.
Yeah, and we see how their powers have grown. Also, how their powers have kind of grown and changed. We see that Klaus, Ben is acting independently of Klaus.
Yes.
And Klaus has other ghosts that he's raised that are now acting for him. And like you said, we see Vanya, we see Luther, we see Diego dodge bullets. And I guess he did something while he was in the air to curve those bullets and make them go to those guys. Or he had I couldn't catch it every time I watched it, but he definitely dodged the bullets and then did something. So their powers have definitely grown and changed. I mean, we see Allison, she got her voice back, and she says to those guys, I blew your minds, and we see their brains explode.
Blow up.
We
never saw that before.
Yeah, exactly. So their powers have kind of evolved. They've gotten better. But the thing that troubles me about this, and again, this is another thing I think I sent in a voicemail to somebody else, is what happened in 10 days? Because if Diego is in a mental institution on November 15th, 1963. How does he get to November 25th all dressed in black? And, you know, are we going to get that story, or has number 5 changed the timeline enough at this point that we're never actually going to get the story of how the 6 of them
Get together.
got together to work for the U.S. government?
That's a good one. Or possibly that, you know, with the way number 5 is, maybe he was manipulating through time and changing it, and over the course, you know, like I said, there's a lot of time manipulation, and he's the one that is always doing it.
Yeah.
Very much like almost like a speedster, if you think about it, because that's how he's able to warp through everything. And the one thing that Hargreave himself warned him against and gave him crap for. But it caused a lot of this too, if you think about it.
Yeah, and that's what I don't know. I'll be interested to see how much of the story we get, or if we do even get that story of how they became, you know, kind of the U.S. government's, team. So my number 3 is Elliot. That's the guy who witnesses all of our team's arrival, and I really love this character. I thought he was really cool. He's paranoid, kind of schizophrenic. He sets up all those cameras on the roof, and so he sees, he sees. I think he only actually witnessed Klaus's arrival and Luther's arrival, but he must have had a picture of Diego, because he says, I think this is the one that showed up, whatever, and he shows him the mug shot, because he says, I think this guy matches the description of the guy who I saw come through. I couldn't tell if he had a picture of Vanya. I think he might have had a picture of Vanya up on his wall.
Yeah, they were kind of blurred if you think about it, too, those pictures.
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly what was going on there, but his whole question to 5 about anal probes was, why is it always anal probes? I thought was funny. So I hope we get this. I hope we get more of this character throughout the season. I hope he sticks around and we get to see kind of his interaction and what he's all about.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. That would be my number 2, though, is like Elliot helping number 5 try to reclaim his family back, and tracking his family at that point, too.
Yeah.
Because that's how he was able to find Luther and everything else within this episode.
Yeah, exactly. I totally forgot about that. You're right, because he had to give him some sort of information that helped him find Luther as well.
Correct.
That's how he shows up there at the club. Very cool. So my number 2 is 5 trying to prevent Diego's escape there, when he tells the guards that he's shaved down the bars of his cell and he's going to try to break out. And then he does break out anyway, and he gets that help from Lila, the other patient. But I don't know what's going on with her, because she seems to be really good at fighting, and she's definitely protecting Diego from those commission guys that are trying to kill him, because he's still drugged up and not able to really fight.
Yeah, that's one wacky chick.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And my number 1, I think,
Yeah.
that would be the different ways the 6 were able to adapt to the change of time. Except Diego, because he doesn't like change, apparently, since he's still in denial. That's why he's in the insane asylum, because he just attacks everybody.
Yeah, well, he wants to be the hero. So.
Yeah, he can't conform due to his convictions of fixing or taking care of things. His idealistic thoughts of saving JFK and maybe slitting the throat of Adolf Hitler with number 5's help, if number 5 would help, that is.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
The way even number 5 said, he goes, "What?"
Yeah. I thought that was great, that whole interaction between them. My number 1 is Klaus and Ben's road trip. They were apparently in San Francisco for some reason, and I'll throw a quote in here that Ben says, "I need us in San Francisco." So I wonder, again, that's another one of those backstories. I hope that's what we're going to get throughout this season, is that we're going to get the different backstories of how all these characters, because they obviously, and I think Elliot says something about a few of them came back to the alleyway to try to find, people
where they were.
But then
they would just go back.
Yeah, but then eventually over the years, they all gave up. And
it wasn't really that long of many years, because if you're thinking about it, was within a year.
Exactly. It was within a year. Each of them arrived from the other, and they didn't spend a lot of time trying to find. But also you have to think about the fact that
They got to survive.
Well, they had to survive, and they also had no clue that they were all going to show up in the same place in the same decade.
Correct.
You know,
yeah.
So I'll give them a little bit of grace on that of not going back to the alley a bunch of times. They maybe did it a few times, and then we're just like, okay, I gotta live, you know. Or I guess we might find out. So I put notes before quotes this time.
Okay.
And I think we both have a bunch of notes here.
Yeah.
Some of mine we've already talked about. I'll throw one of mine in here, and then you can throw one of yours in. I love the fact that Five still craves and enjoys coffee. I thought that was great. He's like, "Is that fresh? Is this Colombian?" You know.
Yeah. You already spoke about this, but you know the way it starts off as if they all come together at the end of during this quote unquote war on the U.S. with the Soviets, and I brought it up, and you stated about Ben's powers coming out and attacking with his tentacles and something from a different dimension. The fact that he looks like a Force ghost and he's actually able to physically do stuff within the world, which they were trying to do at certain points in the first season too. The only other one, well, you go on to your next one.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. We've already talked about that. I laughed, and it's kind of goes with my number one of Ben and Klaus's road trip. Is I love that that Ben didn't actually help Klaus, like in the poker game. He kind of tells him, oh, he's got nothing, and then finally he's got a king and a seven, so he ends up having a full house. So he had two pair before that last card came out, and or he had three of a kind. I'm not sure which one it was. He had a king and a seven. There were two kings. Yeah, so he had three of a kind. He had three kings before that second seven came out, I think is how it played out. But anyway, I just thought it was funny. And then like when he wanted him to help fight, and Ben just kind of appears and goes, "No, I'm good," And so so Klaus has to run out and try to find the guy's truck, and you can see him pointing the keys at the different vehicles, like he thinks he can do a clicker kind of thing, and that didn't work for him, and he was just lucky to get the right truck the very first time. So yeah, I thought that was pretty funny.
I'll only give two that we have, but that I have in here. Basically, Diego's concern about President Kennedy's murder that will happen within a week.
Yeah.
This is going to be the prime function of what's going on within like the context of what they're going to do, because something's monumentous. Not just that was a monumentous moment in history, but it seems like everybody's revolved around this at certain points. Like number 5 was there, as you said before.
Right.
And then now Diego's like very concerned about this and wanting to change history and creating some sort of weird butterfly effect. And then the fact that they're trying to, track down each other at this point too.
Yeah, because we don't know what was the catalyst that Klaus decided to go back to Dallas at that moment. We don't know if he saw something or heard something or what, that caused him to want to leave San Francisco at that very moment to go back to Dallas. I liked Sissy, the wife of the family that takes Vanya in. She's there smoking, and she says, "Well, my husband would never let me smoke." And we kind of get this impression that she's like, she wants to leave the relationship, but at the same time, she doesn't want to leave the relationship. So I want to know more about the backstories of some of these side characters. I hope we do get some of that.
Is it me, or does Sissy look a little bit like the handler that was like handling number 5?
I didn't notice it, but I guess there might be kind of a resemblance there. It's possible. I don't think it's the same actress.
I don't think it's the same actress, but the fact that she looks a lot like her.
Yeah, that is interesting.
The height, and the hair length, the face a little bit, but
yeah,
I'm wondering if that's going to come into play because we don't know much about that handler.
Yeah,
and maybe this was her beginning.
Could be. I liked the music is still good. We're still getting, good songs and good fight scenes and things.
Yeah, and we already discussed all the other points. You brought up all the topics. That's all I throw in there, like all the different times when everybody shows up.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we kind of discussed a little bit about this, but I want to make sure we hit it, is that fact that the commission is still active, but it's different. And that is a callback to the end of season 1 when, when the handler reappears and 5 says, "Oh, you had enough time to heal up." And she says something about that the commission is still active, but it's different. And so it's going to be interesting to see. Again, that's one of those things I wonder if we're going to get that story of how the commission recovered after 5's, you know, because he blew up their time travel. He blew up all their briefcases. I guess there was one extra somewhere. I guess it would have been in, it was in the hotel room. Yeah, I don't know how she would have gotten a briefcase unless she got the same briefcase that she brought back with her from the hotel room before the apocalypse had happened. It's timey-wimey. So
Wibbly wobbly,
yeah.
timey wimey thing. Yeah,
Exactly.
Doctor Who.
So now we've got a few quotes here.
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and start?
First one would be, yeah, why don't you tell that to Luke Skywalker? And that was to the therapist from Diego.
Yeah, I thought that was
when
great.
he asked him who he was.
I had to back that up when he was talking about dysfunctional hero complex with father issues or something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. He says that would be a great reference if you got it, you know, kind of thing.
He didn't because it didn't even come out yet.
Yeah, I love when Hazel is talking to Five about the commission. He says, "I quit those a-holes. I don't." He didn't say a-holes though. I don't owe them the fuzz off my peaches. I thought it's like, you, dude.
Yeah. And then the last one I would have would be Klaus saying, "They're gone like a fart in the wind," talking about his family to Ben.
Yeah, that was another one that made me laugh every time. I loved when Vanya is talking and the guy says that he's put up some more missing person flyers, and she says, "Maybe I'm just not the kind of girl you miss." And that's where I really started thinking that that she's faking this amnesia, because number one, she knows her name, obviously, because she told him, or maybe she had something on her possession that said her name, but she's still acting like this whole "I'm just ordinary, I'm not special" kind of thing. So I don't know. We'll see. And then of course at the very end when Luther says, "I don't give a bleep about the apocalypse coming," again, Luther is a great character, and I want to see, you know, how did he get this way? Because we saw him kind of starting to get disillusioned at the end of season 1 when he finds all those packages that he had sent from the moon that his father didn't even open. And we see him starting to get disillusioned, but now he's even further into this kind of dark hole that he's in. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets out of that, and you know, what we see of him throughout the season.
Oh, definitely. I would love to. Well, each character is very particular, you know. Each has their own journey, and I think that's Luther's journey.
Yeah.
Just kind of like with Vanya, well, if she has amnesia or she's faking, who knows? Maybe this is her development too.
Right.
And then Allison dealing with her family, her love for Luther, and then what she's doing now, currently. Klaus with his relationship with Ben, but his attachment to this guy who's been dead from Vietnam, which actually questions my mind about Klaus and the time that this was done. Where, so he was in Vietnam, so it was like, what, in the 60s or 70s?
Yeah, I can't remember if they said 65 or 68. I can't remember from season 1. I think he said 65 is where he was in. So he's a little bit before his time in Vietnam. Yeah. Here in 1963.
But the one thing that makes me think is, so the Umbrella Academy was taking place like that when they were adults and everything, and Luther came back from the moon. Was that in the 70s or 80s?
No. That's 2019. No, that was 2019. That was present day when Luther comes. Okay. When Hargreaves died, because that's the whole thing that they reveal there at the end of season 1 is you find out that Hargreaves apparently knew this was going to happen and knew when it was going to happen. We don't know how he knew or what, but he apparently, because he had been preparing them their whole lives for this moment, and that's why he committed suicide, to bring them all back together. And even he tells Klaus that maybe it was when Klaus manifested him. I think he says something about, you know, well, maybe it was a mistake to send Luther up to the moon. He realized that was his mistake where he messed up,
and he should have burnt those documents or something.
Yeah, or that he should have not hidden them, or he should have done something different with those documents. I think that's the other thing that he regrets.
But my question and my thought is so it's when we last saw them, it was 2019. You're saying
correct?
The reason why I question that is I didn't see any cell phones or anything modern. That's why I question it, and the fact that Klaus actually served in Vietnam. Vietnam? How did he get to
No,
Vietnam?
he was because he was on the bus. Remember, he stole the briefcase. He stole the briefcase from Hazel and
Okay,
Cha-Cha.
I lost something
and,
there.
And he
Okay,
was
I
fiddling
gotcha.
with it on the bus, and that's what sent him back in time.
That's what it was. Okay, all right. I lost something.
And then in the flashback, when we see after Dave dies, he goes to his bunk and he pulls that briefcase out again, and somehow he manages to dial up the correct coordinates to get him back to 2019.
Okay.
And yeah.
All right, so I had a fart in the wind, and I couldn't remember.
It's real quick. It's real quick if you miss it, because like then he gets back to 2019 and he destroys the briefcase, and then that starts the whole storyline of Hazel and Cha-Cha trying to find the case, because they realize that without that case they can't get back. And then you have that moment when number 5 fakes the case. He puts all those utensils and plates and stuff into a briefcase that looks very similar to that, tries to give that to Hazel and Cha-Cha, and then the handler shows up, and it's episode
like I said,
8.
it's all this timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly thing.
Yeah,
it's kind
like,
of...
I want to say it's like it's either episode 5 or episode 8. I can't remember. It's right around that part of season 1. Where it's real quick.
Yeah, I
It might
kind of
be
watched it within a day or two. So
right, so you can miss some little details when you watch it fast like that.
Yeah.
The only news, we didn't have any feedback. Did you check the emails?
No, I checked all feedback. I didn't get any. I checked our email or Facebook. Nothing.
Okay. The only news, really, I didn't put this in the doc, but the news, and I've already mentioned it, is that from what we understand, season 3 has been greenlit. So whenever that production is going to start, I don't know if they've written it yet or what that means for the future.
Yeah. And with comic news, there's only one. It's been out for a while, but I suggest it and recommend it. Neil Gaiman's Sandman is now available on Audible with a lot of celebrity voice acting. A lot of major people are casted in to do the Sandman comic as think of it as like a radio play, and I think it's really cool.
Podcast recommendations, I will let everybody know. I got to set in with Ben and Kristen on the season 3 finale of Lost from the We Have to Go Back Lost Revisited podcast, which is a joint podcast between the Next Level Podcast Network, and Podcastica. I got to set in with them yesterday when we're recording this. It was yesterday. I think it may drop today. So look for that if you're following Lost or if you just want to hear more of me. But that's again, I might have said it too fast. That's We Have to Go Back Lost Revisited. Also, I did send voicemails, and I think Mark said he sent voicemails as well to both Strange Indeed and TV Podcast Industry. So you'll hear us on those podcasts. Strange Indeed, I think we'll be starting up next week, doing like us, we're doing one episode a week. TV Podcast Industries got some early access to the first 2 episodes, so they've already dropped their reviews of episode 1 and 2, and then next week they're starting, and they're going to be combining some episodes, so it may be more sporadic, our voicemails to them, because if we stay at 1 episode a week, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And my recommendations will definitely be TV Podcast Industries and their coverage of Umbrella Academy Season 2 as well, and Strange Indeed. Rima and Paik, they are all doing the same as well. I just recommend to all our listeners to listen to all of us,
Absolutely.
I think we all will have many different views of the same show, and I think this will be pretty much a good, fun thing to do. I'm probably going to be, because after I finish editing, I'm tired of listening to myself, so I'll be listening to our friends, and then being like, hey, I want to send them feedback and hear myself, but to hear what they think of my thoughts. I'm going to try and change it up so it's a little bit different than what we have here, but that's kind of hard because we're all covering the same show.
It is, and like I said at the beginning, I try to send different things to both those podcasts, but I think I've said them, the 2 things that I sent to those podcasts throughout this podcast as well. So you may hear something very similar on those, but I'm looking forward to hearing Rima and Paik talk about it, and I'm interested to hear Derek and the guys as well.
Yeah, well, maybe at the end of this season we can all just come together and put our heads together for like a round table and we could cross the streams. But yeah, that's it for recommendations, but for podcasts. But for YouTube recommendations, we always recommend everybody check out the Grim Life Collective with their Up All Night with the Grims. Check them out with their Fun Times with a Live movie watch party that they do on YouTube. Obviously, one device to watch the show and another to actually interact with Michael and Jessica. So they're doing a Grindhouse thing. We're recording this August 1st, Saturday. They're doing it, but you could actually go back and watch both at the same time if you feel like it. So they're doing, the Quentin Tarantino and I forget the other director, but it was the double feature that they did for Grindhouse. So I would recommend that. I loved those two movies, so I recommend those.
So you can send us feedback. We want to hear from you on anything that we've been doing on any podcast player of choice. You can hear us. You can also check us out on the web at panelstopixelspodcast.com. Also, we have our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/panelstopixels. You can email us, panelstopixels1@gmail.com. That's panelstopixels1. The 2 is spelled out, T-O, right there in the middle. The number 1 @gmail.com. You can also send us a voicemail to 845-350-2095. That's 845-350-2095. We are on YouTube, and usually that is where the podcast drops first, is on YouTube, and we are Panels to Pixels podcast there. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe to us, and just let us know how we're doing. You can send us feedback about anything from season 1 of the Umbrella Academy. We'll read it. If you do send us, if you've watched ahead and you want to send us feedback about some of the future episodes of season 2, we do ask that you identify that either at the beginning of your voicemail or your email so that we don't get spoiled on things that we haven't watched yet. But we do want to hear what you think of the entire series, the entire season, whenever you choose to send that to us.
Yeah, like I said earlier, Steve and I will be watching one episode a week, unless one of us breaks format and we just go rogue. And, or maybe if we double up on an episode, we're going to try to work this out so that we could actually be somewhat in time with The Boys when it comes out in September. But it's hard to keep it, week per week because you have that temptation with Netflix to binge.
Well, and they've set that up so easy to where it's almost like 15-20 seconds that it goes right into the next episode. So if you're not paying attention, all right. Well, where else can listeners hear us, Mark, besides here?
Well, I could be found right here on Panels to Pixels, as well as sending out audio feedback to other podcasts that I love that my friends do. There will be something new coming out at the end of August that we'll be talking about before it launches. Just keep listening. We'll keep you updated.
There you go. And the same thing with me. You'll hear my voice on various other podcasts that I check out. We do encourage you to check out any of the podcasts on the Next Level Podcast Network. Ben is constantly putting out new content. His podcasters are back to a couple of them are regularly putting out podcasts again, and Podcastica is regularly putting out stuff as well.
Well, we pretty much covered everything. That's our show. So thanks for everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Panels to Pixels, and we'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.